Just take a look around you right now. Your phone, your sneakers, that coffee mug on your desk. Ever stop and think about how it all got to you? The journey it took? Almost everything we own travels along this invisible network, this massive system of roads that's basically the circulatory system for the entire global economy. And right at the heart of it all is an absolute giant.
Okay, so let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale here. We're talking about China's road network. And it's not just the biggest on the planet, it completely dwarfs everything else. This is so much more than just asphalt and concrete. It's the literal backbone of modern manufacturing. You should really think of it less like a bunch of roads and more like a conveyor belt, the size of a continent. So how in the world did this thing get so huge, and why does it matter so much? Well, it all goes back to a massive geographical puzzle that China absolutely had to solve.
To really get this network, you first got to understand China's geography. It's a country with a massive split down the middle. The whole western half, it's all high-altitude plateaus, huge deserts. It's beautiful, but for moving stuff around, it's a total nightmare. So because of that, pretty much everyone, all the people, all the factories, all the economic muscle, is crammed into the eastern third of the country. This simple fact of geography funnels the entire logistics engine into one super crowded coastal corridor.
So, to deal with this incredible concentration of industry, China built something like a circulatory system, but on a mind-boggling scale. Think of these roads as the arteries of the world's factory, all designed to pump goods from those inland manufacturing centers out to the coastal ports as fast as humanly possible.
And the core of this whole thing is something called the 71118 network. Now, it sounds complicated, but the concept is actually pretty brilliant in its simplicity. You've got 7 expressways that shoot out from the capital, Beijing, like spokes on a wheel. Then you have 11 major highways that run vertically, north to south. And finally, 18 that run horizontally, east to west. That's it. That's the national trunk system that ties the whole country together.
And inside that grid, there are a couple of key arteries that are doing most of the heavy lifting. You've got the G42, for example. That's the main east-west artery linking all the factories near Shanghai deep into the interior. And then there's the G4, this massive north-south highway connecting the political capital in Beijing all the way down to the financial powerhouse of Hong Kong. An absolutely staggering amount of global trade flows along just those 2 highways.
But here's the thing. These arteries don't just stop at the Chinese border anymore. Through enormous projects like the Belt and Road Initiative, China is pushing its road network out into the world. You have things like the Middle Corridor, which is a new, strategic route to Europe that completely bypasses Russia, or the new Land-Sea Corridor, which is all about connecting that less developed western part of China to global markets. This isn't just about building roads, it's about literally redrawing the map of global trade.
But, and this is a big but, here's where the tension in the story comes in. When you have a system that's this big and this concentrated, it's incredibly vulnerable to one simple thing, a traffic jam. And this is the point where the world's factory can grind to a complete and total halt.
Let's just follow a single shipment to see how this plays out, okay? So a truck finally gets loaded and leaves the factory, and immediately gets stuck in gridlock in some megacity. Hours later, it finally makes it to one of the world's busiest ports, only to get in a line with hundreds of other trucks. And after all that waiting, it gets to face the final boss, the customs office. Every single step is another chance for a major delay.
And believe me, this isn't just some theoretical problem. The reality can be absolutely brutal. Just look at that critical border crossing between the manufacturing capital of Shenzhen and the global port of Hong Kong. During the busy season, it's not unheard of for a single truck to wait in that line for up to 3 days. 3 days! That's 72 hours where your stuff isn't moving, deadlines are flying by, and costs are just piling up, all while sitting in traffic. And the jams aren't just physical, The paperwork side of things is just as fragile. A single typo, one wrong number on a customs form, what they call a tariff code, that can get a whole container flagged for a manual review. And that one tiny little mistake can slap an entire extra week onto the delivery time. It's crazy. So what does all this waiting and jamming around lead to? Well, it leads to the next big problem, the surprisingly high price you have to pay to actually use all this amazing pavement.
One of the biggest of these hidden costs is the expressway tolls. If you look at the price per ton kilometer, China clocks in at around 7 cents. Now, that might not sound like much, but it's more than double what it costs to use the highways in other big manufacturing countries like Vietnam or Thailand. And that little difference adds up incredibly fast.
Let me put a real number on that for you.
A single truck making that super important trip from the port of Shanghai up to the capital in Beijing can expect to pay over $600. And get this, that's just in tolls. That's before you even think about paying for fuel or the driver's salary. It's a huge operating expense that gets baked right into the price of every single thing that truck is carrying. And the financial hits don't stop there. China has some of the strictest regulations in the world about how much a truck can weigh. If a driver gets caught with an overloaded truck, the fine can be as high as $1,500 for just one violation. So what happens? Companies get scared. They play it super safe, sometimes even sending out trucks that aren't full, which just means more trucks on the road, making everything even less efficient. So, okay, let's bring this all back. Why should you care about a traffic jam happening on the other side of the planet? Well, because this massive domestic road network has become, for all intents and purposes, a global supply chain choke point.
It really boils down to this painful ripple effect. A simple traffic delay in a city like Shanghai means a shipment is late. That lateness can trigger these huge financial penalties for the shipping company. And where do you think those extra costs eventually go? Yep, they get passed right down the line, eventually ending up in the price you pay for that product.
And really, that's the core idea of this whole explainer. On the one hand, we all get to enjoy the incredible efficiency of this system. It brings us the things we use every single day, and it does it fast and cheap. That's our convenience. But on the other hand, we are all exposed to just how fragile it is, and that's our risk.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. We've seen just how connected everything is. But how resilient is our entire global economy, really, to one single massive traffic jam in a city like Shanghai? The answer might be a lot more fragile than any of us want to admit.